Do you feel anxious? Do you suffer from anxiety? Do you feel afraid of a lot of things, or do things really freak you out? Do you have social anxiety? Well, so do I. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that feels like for me. So, what does anxiety feel like exactly? Well, it can feel differently depending on what circumstance you have. Several years ago, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. So, in case you're not sure what that is, it's just basically you're anxious all the time for no reason. And then there's what we call situational anxiety, where maybe you're nervous about making a speech, or you're nervous in crowds, or you have the social anxiety, where it's really being around people or being in a particular social setting, or with kids when they have separation anxiety, things like that. So, generalized anxiety is exactly what it sounds like. You can get anxious from everything or anything. Now, in my case, it tends to come and go a little bit, which is good, because I have gone to therapy. I myself have been taking some medication for it. Now, full disclaimer here, I am not any kind of medical professional. I am never going to tell anyone else that they should or shouldn't take it. This is my own personal experience. So it's something that I found useful, and in conjunction with therapy and doing other things to manage it, it was helpful. But it's not for everyone, and if this is something you're thinking about, you must talk to a medical professional and do your research and find out your options. So just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, I mean, it's also a really scary world. And I've talked about this in a few other videos. Things just feel out of control. When you can't control things, there's what we call that sense of existential dread. And sometimes you just have that feeling in the pit of your stomach. I've had days where I could be sitting around doing absolutely nothing, and I just feel like this dread feeling, or I feel worried or nervous about something, and I'm not even going anywhere. I could be reading a book or just sitting, and I just get that unease, that uneasy feeling. Now, in my case, it's a lot better than it used to be. When I was younger and really wasn't clear on what was going on for me, there were times I felt like I was going crazy. I thought I was the only one. I thought I was just extremely sensitive or overreacting to things. I would get horrible stomach aches. Like I would have to go somewhere and do something, and I would just get the worst stomach ache. It was awful. And I would literally shake sometimes. Sometimes I would cancel things because I was too scared to go, or cancel it last minute. I was never, as far as social anxiety, it was never so much when I would be around people I know. So I could, like, if I was even going to go to a party but I knew I'd pretty much know everyone there, or it was a small get together, or maybe a one on one, or I had known people for a really long time, that I didn't have a problem with. Or even with strangers, if it was structured. Like I worked as a bartender, I worked as an usher, I've had jobs where I had to deal with the public. I was never nervous around that because I think it's structure. You're kind of have a purpose and a reason for talking to people. So as long as I always had a reason to, but to just talk to some random person, like to go up to some person in a social situation I didn't know, oh, that was completely terrifying. And I know that's pretty typical for a lot of people. Even people who don't have anxiety can feel self-conscious. But when you have anxiety, it is so scary, and you feel it in your body. And the reason why anxiety works the way it does is because it's something we need to stay alive. We need to have our nervous system kind of, we need all those stress hormones to get away from bad situations. So, a million years ago, we had to run away from something, we had to fight, we had to hide, we had to do whatever. We had to act really quickly, and our body kind of had to like get really jammed up, like, so we could do the things we need to do without overthinking them. Now, in a person who maybe doesn't have a lot of anxiety, that's going to come back to normal. So you might get that adrenaline rush, you might get all those things, those hormones you need, and all those things going on in your brain that you need to heighten your nervous system and be hyper alert, hyper vigilant, what we call hypoarousal. But then everything kind of comes back to normal, and your default is kind of a more neutral place. We don't want to crash either, because that goes into depression. That's what we call hypo, where I can't get out of bed, I can barely move, you're numb, you're dissociative. We're talking about kind of this neutral place where I'm fine, I'm feeling okay. I could run away from something if I had to, but at the meantime, I'm feeling pretty okay. I always like to call it a kind of calm alertness. So you're pretty calm, but you're also aware and alert. And I found that when I'm really stressed or when something bad happening, I'll default to that. However, the good news is most of the time it's on a pretty even keel. It's not high on the scale. I might only have this very low level anxiety most of the time. I even have times where I even forget about it or I don't have it. One of the things I find is when I get into something that I'm really focused on or something that gives me joy. Like I love to sing and I get such what's the word I'm looking for? Serotonin. I get just that wonderful endorphin, that calm, but kind of a natural high, what we call it. And when I sing, because I love it so much, I find I get flooded with that and I feel incredible and I have no anxiety. So I find certain situations, or if I'm with a good friend, or I'm just feeling immersed in something. So, finding some focus, finding some joy, um, getting out of your head, doing something physical is another great way, getting into my body, and just having really great connections with people. So being around loving, kind, warm and fuzzy people, I find also, and normalizing. Let's normalize anxiety. Everyone has some. The only people that don't have any anxiety are sociopaths and psychopaths. Basically, people that aren't capable of any real emotion except rage, and maybe some very, very on the scale of very high malignant narcissists, almost going into sociopathy, generally only feel rage. The rest of us have some anxiety because we need it to survive. So let's normalize it. I talk to my friends about it. I talk to people about it. I have my own therapist. I'm talking about it with you right now. Let's normalize these things. Let's talk about them openly. We all feel it. We're all human. We're not perfect, and it's okay. Let's have compassion for ourselves and for each other. Thank you for watching. I so appreciate all of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.